I always knew I was destined to be treated like royalty. Actually, if you heard more of us singing and playing this morning than you actually saw, that's because we couldn't coax Daryl out of his tower this morning. He's stuck back in there. So if you hear a voice that you don't see any mouths moving, you know he's back there. This morning, our text comes from the 6th chapter of Paul's letter to the Galatians. I know many of you can't see it, but I'll read it for you, okay? Live creatively, friends. If someone falls in sin, forgivingly restore him, saving your critical comments for yourself. You might be needing forgiveness before the day's out. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens and so complete Christ's law. If you think you're too good for that, you are badly deceived. Make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you've been given, and then sink yourself into that. Don't be impressed with yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. Each of you must take responsibility for doing the creative best you can with your own life. Be very sure now, you who have been trained to a self-sufficient maturity, that you enter into a generous common life with those who have trained you, sharing all the good things that you have and experienced. Don't be misled. No one makes a fool of God. What a person plants, he will harvest. The person who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others, ignoring God, harvests a crop of weeds. And he'll have to show for his life, all he'll have to show for his life is weeds. But the one who plants in response to God, letting God's Spirit do the growth work in him, harvests a crop of real life, eternal life. So let's not allow ourselves to get fatigued doing good. At the right time, we will harvest a good crop if we don't give up or quit. Right now, therefore, every time we get the chance, let us work for the benefit of all, starting with the people closest to us in the community of faith. Now, in these last sentences, I want to emphasize in the bold scrawls of my personal handwriting the immense importance of what I have written to you. These people who are attempting to force the ways of circumcision on you have only one motive. They want an easy way to look good before others, lacking the courage to live by a faith that shares Christ's suffering and death. All their talk about the law is gas. They themselves don't keep the law, and they are highly selective in the laws they do observe. They only want you to be circumcised so they can boast of their success in recruiting you to their side. That is contemptible. For my part, I am going to boast about nothing but the cross of our Master Jesus Christ. Because of that cross, I have been crucified in relation to the world, set free from the stifling atmosphere of pleasing others and fitting into the little patterns that they dictate. Can't you see the central issue in all this? It is not what you and I do, submit to circumcision or reject circumcision. It is what God is doing. And he is creating something totally new, a free life. All who walk by this standard are the true Israel of God, his chosen people. Peace and mercy on them. Quite frankly, I don't want to be bothered anymore by these disputes. I have far more important things to do. The serious living of this faith. I bear in my body scars from my service to Jesus. May what our Master Jesus Christ gives freely be deeply and personally yours, my friends. Oh, yes. Now remember, just as a sideline here, remember what Paul is doing. Paul is visiting all these churches and or writing to them, settling disputes about, should we do this or should we do this? Oh, that's a Gentile. Oh, that's a Jew. And he is acting to bring everyone together. And so what he's trying to do here is say, don't let them force you to do a bunch of rites of the Jewish faith, because this is a whole different ballgame. So let's talk about it. On Wednesday night, we participated in our second monthly Shalom service. And what do you do on Independence Day Eve but to project images of the American flag, fireworks, and other patriotic symbols? sing great songs of our faith based on patriotic imagery, and tell stories about those who have proudly served our country. It was a meaningful evening, and we all took away a renewed sense of why we really observe the 4th of July. This, I believe, is something that we have been forgotten over the last 237 years since the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. But hang on, I've gotten a bit ahead of myself. As I've been thinking about all the money and energies expended on this single holiday, like 150 million hot dogs consumed, 700 million pounds of chicken purchased for grilling, 25 million pounds of fireworks sold to cities alone for public displays, and $5 million spent on the import of U.S. flags from China. I question our collective celebrations and wonder how it fits in with the dreams of our forefathers, as well as how consistent it is with our faith. In doing some research on the matter, I came across a post for today in one of the many homiletics journals online. This particular one, entitled The Christian Goo-Goos, looked at our Galatians text for today and had some very interesting illustrations that I would like to share with you today. Have you ever been called a goody two-shoes? That's what it asks. Very first sentence. Have you ever been called a goody two-shoes? Now, from where I'm from, that's not considered to be a compliment. Instead, it's usually reserved for someone that's so good and so smug that they annoy the tar right out of all of us imperfect, normal folks. It turns out that this term, goody two-shoes, comes from an English children's book by John Newbery, published in London in 1765. The main character of this variation of the Cinderella story, Marjorie Meanwell, walks around her town with only one shoe until one day a wealthy benefactor has sympathy for her and gives her a complete pair. After receiving the generous gift, she runs through the streets, knocking on doors and telling everyone who will listen that she now has two shoes. She left no house unvisited, no door unopened. See what I mean? Annoying. Now, goody two-shoes has some similar terms that I'm sure you've heard of, like do-gooder, which brings to mind the Canadian cartoon character Dudley Do-Right, or goody-goody, that sounds more like something you would buy from the ice cream truck than a stereotypical name you would use for someone. Now, if you're a politician, you could be called a goo-goo, which is short for good government guys. I don't know about you, but that seems sort of strange, maybe an oxymoron, really. Good government guy. In the 1890s, though, the term goo-goo was short for a member of the good government clubs that stood up against the huge political machines of that day. Some of those political machines still exist today in many places. This machine kind of politics, as it was called, described a political faction led and controlled by an individual or a group that had a stranglehold over cities and governments by means of payoffs and punishments. These machines were not out for the good of patrons, but rather the good of themselves. Now, this never happened in Kansas City, I'm sure. The Goo-Goos, or mugwumps, or progressives as they were called, challenged the political machines with reform movements driven by idealism and desire for change. While they were doing the good and the right thing, they were seen as annoying. And actually, present-day politicians who try to go against the system can still be labeled by that term. Now, being a goo-goo, or a do-gooder, or a goody two-shoes can be a good thing, because it shifts the focus from self-serving to what is right and what benefits everyone involved. As people of faith, we've often been forced into that stereotype. In some ways, it may be due to our capacity to be a bit annoying, self-righteous, and critical of the rest of the world. On the other hand, Christian goo-goos, like their political counterparts, have the opportunity to change